Ms. McGill, at Penn, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Penn's rules or code of conduct? Yes or no?
If the speech turns into conduct, it can be harassment, yes.
I am asking specifically calling for the genocide of Jews. Does that constitute bullying or harassment?
If it is directed and severe or pervasive, it is harassment.
So the answer is yes.
It is a context-dependent decision, Congresswoman.
It's a context-dependent decision. That's your testimony today. Calling for the genocide of Jews is depending upon the context. That is not bullying or harassment. This is the easiest question to answer yes, Ms. McGill.
That testimony before the House Committee on Education and the Workforce last Tuesday led to the ouster, the resignation of University of Pennsylvania President Liz McGill. Now, that hearing last week included the testimony of Harvard University President Claudine Gay, the University of Pennsylvania President Liz McGill, who you just heard from, and the Massachusetts Institute of Technology President Sally Kornbluth. Now, each president kept repeating that violent speech would need to be directed at individuals and that it would also need to be pervasive and severe in order to count as harassment. But the vague ways in which they answered, the legalese that they used in answering these questions led to quite a bit of backlash. So here are a few more examples.
And Dr. Gay, at Harvard, does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
It can be, depending on the context.
What's the context?
Targeted as an individual, targeted at an individual.
It's targeted at Jewish students, Jewish individuals. Do you understand your testimony is dehumanizing them? Do you understand that dehumanization is part of antisemitism? I will ask you one more time. Does calling for the genocide of Jews violate Harvard's rules of bullying and harassment? Yes or no?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric.
And is it anti-Semitic rhetoric?
Anti-Semitic rhetoric when it crosses into conduct that amounts to bullying, harassment, intimidation, that is actionable conduct, and we do take action.
Now look, I think that the presidents should have just clearly stated calls for genocide will immediately be investigated to ensure that our students are safe on campus, that no one is inciting violence. Instead, they were using all sorts of legal language in order to, give these vague answers, which weren't a good look. I think we can all admit that, right? But there's also a part of this that's frustrating because there is absolutely no evidence of student protests chanting for the genocide of Jewish people, the elimination of Israel. It's just entirely made up. It's an interpretation of other statements that have been made by some students on some campuses, and this is blown up so out of proportion, but it's also understandable considering the type of environment in which these universities have fostered over the last several years, okay? The speed in which some students and professors were retaliated against for their speech. And so when you have offensive speech on college campuses that offends Jewish students, they're probably wondering, wait, how come we don't get the safetyism, protections that other students have been able to enjoy? So I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that and give you examples in just a moment. But Cenk, I wanted to bring you in and hear what you have to say.
Okay, so look, first of all, I just can't stand the chant from the river to the sea. So I get it. Some people say, oh no, it means political one-state solution. There should just be democracy, etc. Yes, but the majority of people think it means genocide. So why are you chanting it? Like if you think that it might, that at a bare minimum be misinterpreted as calling for the genocide of Jewish people and there's Jewish students, why would you chant it? Why would you do that? That's a terrible idea, okay? And I saw people chanting all sorts of nonsense at a Jewish restaurant owner in Philadelphia. What are you guys, now what are you doing? This is not against Jews. If you think it's about Jews, you lost the thread and you're not one of us. That's the exact opposite of what we're trying to do. We're trying to protect people no matter what their religion or race is. If you don't understand that, you're not very bright and you're not helping anyone, okay? And saying things like this it should have been relatively easy for the deans that were there, okay, the university presidents that were there. But the lawyers come and tell them, now say this and then say that and then et cetera. And so it's okay, so they should have been clear. Everyone agrees to that, okay? Yeah. You need to protect your Jewish students, no question about it, okay? Not even close. Now, Stefanik, who's pretending to be outraged, right? She's like, can you just say that it's not okay to chant about genocide? She's voting for genocide. Oh, but it's not of Jews, it's of Palestinians.
No, Jake, we don't talk about that genocide. We need a distraction from that genocide. So please, let's focus on the distraction. Everyone, distraction. Let's not actually focus on the real genocide that's being committed in the Gaza Strip as we speak. Let's talk about students who feel unsafe, privileged students who go to Ivy League institutions. Let's talk about that instead. Yeah. That's way more important than the fact that our 2,000-pound bombs are being dropped on the heads of freaking children in the Gaza Strip. Okay, let's talk about the safetyism and how we need to protect safetyism on college campuses.
Yeah,
please.
Okay, which leads to the next point. Wait, I thought Republicans were against cancel culture. And they're like,
no, they love it when it's convenient for them.
And by the way, in those hearings, as far to my knowledge, nobody ever actually pointed to an actual chant. So they're like, because of a hypothetical chant,
right?
We want anyone who doesn't, they've condemned it, but didn't condemn it in an over-the-top way, fired. Wait, I thought that was cancel culture. No, they're like, fire him, fire him, fire him, fire him. At least Stefanik has talked about cancel culture and how it's terrible. And she's demanding cancel culture in congressional hearings. And by the way, everyone in Washington, no one noticed. Like, that's why I get so frustrated with media and politicians. You guys don't realize that was a giant congressional hearing to do cancel culture?
Elise Stefanik is one of Donald Trump's top lapdogs, okay? Has provided cover for some of the most disgusting anti-Semitic rhetoric uttered by Trump and his cronies, by Trump supporters in various marches and protests, the Charlottesville Tiki Torch March where they're chanting "the Jews will not replace us." Elise Stefanik has no leg to stand on when it comes to the issue of anti-Semitism in the United States because she has provided cover for it as a Republican lawmaker who has been a loyalist to Donald Trump. So please spare me the faux outrage over the speech of college students and chants like "from the river to the sea," which I agree with you, Cenk. I also don't like that chant, and I don't think it does anyone any favors by refusing to stop chanting it, but they're gonna keep doing it. And I think it would be a mistake to equate that with calls for genocide, especially as an actual genocide is being committed in the Gaza Strip with tens of thousands of civilians getting slaughtered, again, by our bombs, okay? Now, with that said, I also wanna just note, this whole thing is so frustrating because I also understand the perspective of the Jewish students who are offended by some of these protests. I get where they're coming from because think about what college campuses have been like over the last several years, especially after the summer of 2020, okay? Any little thing, any slight offensive word will get a student's offer to go to those institutions rescinded. It'll get professors literally fired from their jobs. And I wanna give you specific examples of what I'm talking about here, okay? So let's go to graphic 6 here. This is from the New York Times in July of 2020. Amid a national accounting over entrenched and systemic racism after George Floyd's death in police custody on Memorial Day, at least a dozen schools have rescinded admissions offers to incoming students over instances of racism that circulated widely online, often after outraged students and university alumni demanded swift action. A star high school athlete recruited to play football for Cornell University will no longer be attending the school after a Snapchat video of him using a racial slur went viral. Marquette University revoked an incoming freshman's admission offer because of a Snapchat post mocking the death of George Floyd. Now, to be fair, it is easier for a university to rescind an offer than to expel a student for their speech once they're going to that institution. But I do want to give you an even more insane example. And this is reporting from Inside Higher Ed. The University of Southern California replaced a professor of business communication with another instructor in one of his classes for saying a Chinese word that sounds like an English slur. Greg Patton, the professor, was teaching a lesson on filler words in other languages. Think or like in English in his master's level course on communication for management. Quote, taking a break between ideas can help bring the audience in, Patton said. According to a recording of one of the Zoom course sections and a transcription that appeared next to him on screen. In China, for instance, he continued, the common pause word is that. So in China, it might be, I'm like afraid to say it, but ni ga.
It's actually, it sounds closer to the N word in English than niga. But guys, it is one of the most common words in the Chinese language.
He was fired.
Like you cannot speak Chinese without saying that. Everyone I know who speaks Chinese says it all the time because it's a word in Chinese. So that to Anna's point, so why does everyone get safe spaces but Jewish students don't?
Exactly, yeah.
Right? Is it, oh, they're privileged, they're white, whatever. I don't care what the excuse is, that's nonsense. No, we have to be fair to everyone and treat everyone the same. Okay, so we're super clear on that. We just told you, of course you have to protect the Jewish students, right? And we just told you I hate the from the river to the sea chant. Okay, so now let me ask you something. Is every student at Penn, Harvard, MIT, or any of these other schools that argues for a greater Israel or an Eretz Israel going to be kicked off a college campus and just kicked off the university and canceled? Because that's the same thing as from the river to the sea. That's saying we should wipe out the West Bank and Gaza Strip, one state solution. The Jewish people should have it all because of our religious belief that the God wanted us to massacre and slaughter the Palestinians. So are they all being kicked off? Are we having congressional hearings? Oh no, there's no congressional hearings about that. No one's ever going to be canceled for that. No one's even going to object to that. So the hypocrisy is endless. And then, of course, the biggest hypocrisy of all, Elise Stefanik saying, I can't believe that somebody might chant about genocide and that's why you should be fired. But she's going to vote for genocide. They're going to send $14 billion to continue the ethnic cleansing and the genocide in Palestine. And Elise Stefanik is one of the biggest boosters of that. And you're concerned about genocide? No, you're not. You're voting and funding genocide. What you're saying is, I'm concerned if it's an ethnic group I like. If it's an ethnic group I don't like, I'm going to fund their genocide. If anyone should be canceled, it's Elise Stefanik. But is that the sense you got from American media? To Anna's point about the distraction earlier, we just told you in very clear moral terms about how wrong it is if people chant that. So that's an issue, it's an issue. The actual genocide is a much larger issue because it's not theoretical, it's not a chant, it's not about freedom of speech. It's about actually killing people. And they're being slaughtered with our money as we speak. And almost no one in Congress cares. So spare me your crocodile tears about how you're concerned about genocide as you're the ones funding it.
Look, there's been an ongoing problem on college campuses and speech absolutely should be protected. And that speech that's uttered by everyone from every perspective. Obviously, calling for violence, inciting violence should not be protected. It's not protected in our First Amendment. So I don't think it should be protected on these college campuses either. But there have been statements made by student activists that can easily be referred to as Islamophobic. Do I want them to be expelled? Do I want their speech to be shut down? No, I think that what you do is you battle speech you don't like with more speech. I'm just so tired of this ongoing battle on college campuses because everyone asks for a safe space, everyone, okay? We have been consistent on this issue. We have defended the ability and the rights for people like Ben Shapiro and Ann Coulter to speak on university campuses. But it is interesting because when the tables are turned, whenever they hear speech they don't like, I don't hear them talking about the need to protect free speech on college campuses.
Hey, Ben Shapiro, why don't you just be honest for the first time in your life? You love cancel culture. As long as you're canceling anyone who disagrees with you, you're the biggest fan in the world of cancel. You're speaking out against Israel, cancel them, cancel them. How dare you have freedom of speech in this country, okay? Oh, you're speaking out, by the way, but you defend like, oh, you're speaking out against, or you're being racist? Oh, that's perfectly fine. And how about you, Ben? When you said that that Arabs are good for is lying in the gutter and all the terrible things that you said about Palestinians, Arabs, and Muslims. Shouldn't you be canceled? Looks like you're calling for mass genocide. Oh, no, the rules don't apply, okay? To the right wing, Mark Levin, arguably the largest conservative radio host in the country, called for killing all the Palestinians.
He said there are no innocent Palestinians.
There are no innocent Palestinians, and forwarded an op-ed that argued for killing civilians and wiping them out to show them who's boss. That's a direct call for genocide. Direct call for massacres, ethnic cleansing, and genocide. And where's the congressional hearings? Where's the congressional hearings? Oh no, it's only to protect the critique of Israel do we do congressional hearings and massive distractions. But when there's an actual genocide going on and some of the biggest figures in American media are cheerleading the genocide, no consequences at all, no accountability, no one even asks for accountability. Washington is sick, it's totally diseased. They have corruption has run 100% rampant. Well over 2/3 of Americans say ceasefire, and 90% of Congress says no, bomb away. We love genocide when it's done to the Palestinians. That is what that vote for that extra $14 billion is, saying, I want genocide. That's exactly what every member of Congress that votes for it is saying. Every one of you are voting for genocide while pretending you give a damn.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.